7 o'clock, calling the meeting to order. Welcome to all who have come to observe the meeting of the Iroquois Central School District Board of Education. There are 2 periods of recognition of guests listed on the meeting agenda. The first is for comments regarding agenda items. The second is for topics not on the agenda. Speakers may offer comments related to school operations and programs, but the board cannot hear personal comments concerning any individual associated with the school system. Please address these comments to the appropriate administrator. If you wish to be recognized, please fill out the appropriate form and turn it in the district clerk. As per policy number 1514, public participation at board meetings, public comment by district residents is limited to 15 minutes total unless the board suspends this limit. Each person is given up to 3 minutes in which to address the board. Additionally, no more than 3 people may speak on a single topic unless the board also waives this limitation. This is a meeting held in public rather than a public meeting, which means we are not engaging in a dialogue with members of the community this evening. District personnel will follow up with you regarding your concerns. Rest assured we are listening carefully and take seriously what you have to say. Please demonstrate respect by speaking to the issues, sharing ideas and opinions, but not engaging in personal attacks. The board appreciates your willingness to share concerns and celebrations. Please be advised this meeting is being live streamed and recording will be posted on the Iroquois website. Everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we are moving on to the board discussion and news we're sharing. The first topic we have is the review of board policies, which was in everyone's packet. Are there any comment or discussion on this? The only thing on this topic that I would like to add is, along with our board goals, which we're going to be doing next, I would like to engage in some reviews of the policies and some of the, I think we should review our code of ethics and some of the stuff in there. But that would be what I have to offer on that topic.
I think that's the last one, 6110.
Yep, when I was looking at the packet, it's the last one. But I want to tie that in with board goals.
I'm just waiting for my computer to restart so I can actually put them up in front of me.
I checked it. It was on the agenda.
Oh, is it on there? Okay.
Okay. Did you have anything you want to speak to?
I noticed that there are some nuances in it that I'm pretty sure that over the last, few years, we've probably sort of let go to the wayside. Just a general review, reminding us to read them and to abide by them is probably just should be a good practice for us to do. I think we had talked about last year a committee was formed to do some onboarding things for our new board members, but I think that there's some stuff in our policies that wouldn't hurt some of us older folks. I've been on the board for 9 years now. I'm starting my 10th year. And in reviewing the packet, there were some things in there I was like, oh, yeah, kind of forgot about that. And, doing some self-reflection and saying, have I adhered to all of these policies? And I can honestly say that there are probably some times where I haven't, and I would imagine that all of us, if we read through them thoroughly, would say, oh, I've probably broken that policy once or twice in my time on the board. So it's not a bad idea just for us to review them in general.
Okay. Anything else on the policies? Moving on to the board goals, the way I'm kind of visualizing and shaping this, along with reviewing the policies and a code of ethics, is I really think as a board, whether it's 1 goal, 2 goals, or 3 goals, however you want to break it up, that I would like to see us, not individually, but as a board, do some governance training and some fiscal training. I think we've had, a lot of change, some turnover, some new members, and I think and I want to tie that with a clear, relationship with our superintendent. The way I kind of like to explain it is that the board were kind of, all out, to dinner, at a restaurant. The superintendent is the manager of that restaurant. At the end of the meal, if it's a bad meal or a crappy meal, then we need to follow up and hold the manager, the superintendent, accountable. But I fear that sometimes we're getting too much and we're telling, who the chef should be or how much salt and pepper to put in the dish. And I think that in order to function as a board, I want to together review, those fiscal oversight roles and the governance oversight role, and then, be able to have the conversation and hold the superintendent accountable if necessary. But I want to do it in a very organized, structured way, not kind of a, shotgun type of approach. That's kind of where I am on the goals, and I'm obviously want to hear what the rest of you have to say.
Just a question I have, because there's 3 goals, and I look at the third one, highly functioning. Were you implying there should be a change to the third one, because that's where seems to talk about the training, highly functioning?
Yes, and I think that the first 2 goals, support the superintendent's accountability of implementing and achieving the district goals and the superintendent goals would also tie into that, with the training and the working. I just want to put the goals together where we can actually do stuff, learn and check them off and have accountability. I just don't want them to be nice, paper statements and colorful things. I want us to, put the work in and then have metrics to meet them. And the way I'm looking at it is at least having those 2, types of trainings with all of us together there. So we can have the questions together, ask them, and kind of understand that. So, I don't know if goal 2 is pretty simple. Actively engage our students, families, community members, and school staff in striving for the continuous improvement of the district. But I don't know if I would almost merge 1 and 2 together if possible, or keep them separate. But I would almost merge them together and follow up with, the trainings and the discussion.
It seems to me like these have been our goals in some way, shape, or form for quite a few years now. We haven't seen much of a change. I think I'd like to see us have, obviously the goal itself, the bold-face part, needs to be a little bit more generalized. I think I'd like to see us have a little bit more specific in our objectives.
Right.
Or maybe add that next layer of how do we accomplish that objective? What does that look like? So, you were saying you'd like to see us do, more training.
Fiscal oversight and governance training.
As a board.
And as a group.
So what does that mean? Does that mean we have ECSB come in and do a presentation? Do we have NISBA come in and do a presentation? And then it's making the commitment that everybody attends that meeting.
Right, that's exactly the 2 things I would, I'm assuming, have the Erie County School Board do it, and then us, commit to doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And those, even those 2 are relatively big lifts, and the fact that we all got to be there, we all have to commit. And if it's an hour and a half, that's fine, but I want to be able to have the free-flowing discussion and ask the questions, and put the scenarios out there and have, experts, answer those questions. So, I don't know if I would, I guess in a perfect way, I would, 2 can kind of stay the way it is, and I would somehow combine almost 1 and 3 together, because if we are going to be a high-functioning cooperative school board, then we are, working with the superintendent in accountability and implementing the district goals. I think it's 1 goal, and under the bullet points I would put underneath those are attend those trainings and then look at our, code of ethics. Mm-hmm. That's how I would do it. Mm-hmm. Now, anyone can wordsmith it probably a lot better than I could, but that's how I would do it.
Would you add a 3rd goal then?
I don't think right now it's necessary or prudent right now. I really want to get the training piece down and know where we are and where we stand. And then we can add more goals after that.
I like the idea of bringing us all together for more in-service training kinds of activities, mostly because, most members on the board here are still in their first term. And I think half of the board is less than 4 years. sitting on the board? Am I
I
right?
think that everyone is less than 4 years other than yourself.
Other than myself. So,
Or at 4 years.
When I first got on the board, this was a very, I want to say seasoned board. There were a lot of people on it who had been on it for quite a few years. And we had the luxury of being able to add people very slowly. And then in the last few years, we've had turnover quite a bit. And I think that we're starting to see some of that have an impact on how the board works together. And the trainings are the kinds of things, that's where we're going to see us have those rich discussions that are going to make it so that we congeal and have the kinds of conversations that move our direction, move the district in the direction that we want to see it go as a group.
And I think as a group, it enhances understanding, because then we're all, I mean, anyone could be talking, and people can hear different things. But when you're in a group, then you have the discussion afterwards, and, we make sure we're on the same, place. So I guess I would keep number 2 where it is, and 1 could be, strive to be a highly functioning cooperative school board by supporting the superintendent is an accountability of implementing and achieving the district goals and his superintendent goals. Objective 1, governance training. Objective 2, fiscal training. And then objective 3, review the policies such as the code of ethics and suggest any changes or updates. That's how I would wordsmith it.
I could make a case for keeping them as 3 separate goals, because then you're really keeping the superintendent relationship in one lane and the board role and the board functions in its own separate lane. Because really, if you start to combine them, you start to lose the that clear line, division between what is the board's role and what is the superintendent's role. So in that regard, I would make a case for leaving them as 3 separate goals.
Okay, then you would just do number 3, I think the way it is, then make the objectives the governance training, the fiscal training, and then the review of the policies and the code of ethics. And number 2, I think I would leave as is. Number 1, besides changing the dates, we'd have to look at, form a committee of board members and administrators. Are we still going to do that again? The strategic plans in there.
I kind of got the sense at the end of the year that we did that a little bit too late. And so the changes that committee wanted to see in our summer planning were half implemented. So I'd like to see either that, I guess it can't be the same committee because one of those members is no longer on the board, but I'd like to see the committee start a little bit earlier and work closely with our superintendent to have the changes that the board really does determine that they want to see in our summer planning.
Okay, that makes sense.
Just to point out one thing in
Just
that
said
too,
earlier.
that from this one, it said board members and administrators to review the format. Administrators were not included.
Okay, and I think they should be.
Definitely.
And I'm just looking for the district planning conference. I don't think I have it with me, because I thought that was something we already said at that, where we have a date for that. Do you happen to have that district planning conference agenda?
Thank you. Doug?
Yep.
Thank you, Heather.
No, there isn't one. I was wrong.
Okay.
So yeah, we just have to I can work, if you guys want to give me board members for the committee and maybe put an email out because 2 board members aren't here.
Correct.
And then I can work on getting administrators and we can set up a time and get recommendations. I think by March would be fine. I still think that's a fine date.
Agreed.
Keep it March
Okay.
15th.
Yep.
That's right.
And then support the superintendent in aligning the strategic plan with district's core proposed by the end of February 24. I mean, that's kind of, is that going to transition to an ongoing?
Thing again. That one, let me check again, because again, I want to say it was on here. Strategic plan.
Strategic plan isn't.
Goals, building conditions. Oh, this isn't the final one, because this is set a date, set a date, set a date. That's not the final one.
I don't have the final one.
No, but that is something we did talk about.
No, right. And then the last one,
Actually, I can find it, it's important.
and the last one, provide quality feedback to the superintendent in a timely manner, conduct an executive session by mid-November 23, and at the end of the year, executive session by June 24. This is one that we, even during the superintendent's review process, that we talked that we're going to have more of those conversations with the superintendent. So that one's, we'll just update the dates. We're going to do it more often than that, and that's in the same document that they're looking for.
Okay.
Number 2, I think we can stay roughly the same unless anyone wants to talk about that one.
Well, we did talk about changing this slightly at our district planning, where it currently reads, each ambassador shall attend 4 events per year. And we talked about, attending events, maybe a couple of them together. I don't know if you want to keep that wording
I think you could say,
exactly like that.
continue the ambassador program within each building to ensure effective involvement in district events. And I guess you could probably, just almost delete the last sentence.
Okay.
And I think that,
We all said we wanted to continue the roundtables, yes?
yeah, I think that's coming up on another, we have a work session where we were going to,
We do.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I don't see roundtable in these objectives. Not sure if it's involvement in continue.
The first one.
The first one and goal 2, the first
Oh,
objective.
roundtable there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I went right to 2.
Yeah, and I think we do have at the planning session, we talked about keeping them and what form they were going to take. We have a work session scheduled for that already.
Mm-hmm.
And then, communication for the third bullet point there is something that we're constantly doing, the app, the new website, calendar changes. So I think that one is kind of an ongoing thing because you can never communicate.
I did notice something on our school website. There's now a link to the wall calendar, and I really like that. I really, really like that. Yeah, that is very convenient, because if I'm out and about and I don't happen to have my wall calendar with me, I still have access to it. I thought, whoever's idea that was,
Nora gets full credit.
good job. Thank you.
And
Thank you.
that's a perfect example how that one's going to continue to evaluate. It's going to continue to go and grow as we get better and better because, effective communication is huge. And we can always improve on that. And then the third goal, we kind of went through already, with just, governance training, fiscal training, and then, review our policies and, code of ethics and see updates where needed.
There's 2 on the back, too.
Yeah, we're not using
Eval anymore.
the super eval anymore, so that would need to be changed.
And then the last one is kind of just a good statement. I mean, the board shall adhere to set times on all work sessions, agendas unless circumstances require deviation. I mean, I don't care if you can probably just delete it. And let's take care of the first 3 things first.
Yeah. I think that was back when we were worried we'd have meetings until midnight.
Yes. Are there any, other thoughts?
No, I've been pretty quiet, but I think everything that you have been going back and forth on, I was not going to inject because I agree with all of the pieces. So I like kind of how we've gone through it makes sense, the changes make sense, and so I don't really have anything more to add to it. I will say I do like the concept of re-engaging from a fiscal training and from a bit of a governance as a board. I recently have gone through it last year because it's a little bit fresh in my mind, so I kind of pull on some of that as a reference, but I think it's always good to kind of go back through and catch it again. So I look forward to some of that. But I don't have any changes. I think what you've outlined made sense, and I agree with it.
And then we will move on to New York comments on the cell phone in schools policy. And my basic thought is kind of twofold on this. One, New York and the governor will do what they're going to do. So I don't want to spend too much time with what New York's going to do or not going to do. In locally, my theory always has been and will remain, at least from my point of view, is that I want students to go out into the world the best prepared they possibly can be. And I'm not sure if banning cell phones and putting them in a plastic bag allows them to do that, because they're going to have to learn how to manage it in the real world. I think there needs to be policies, and they need to be enforced of when they can use them and when they cannot use them. But I'm really leery of just, banning this. I mean, we become a society, we want to ban, cell phones in school. You want to ban this, you want to ban that, but then, we will make marijuana legal. I just think that it's not that any of the things are bad or good. I just think that teaching them how to use them responsibly and correctly, and holding them accountable is by far the way to do it. Because, I'm out there, I got people who work for me, and it is very common where people just want to break in the middle of a conversation and look at their cell phone. And that's when you have to address it. And I think if the earlier it gets addressed and responsible use, that's how I view it, in my personal opinion.
So I spent some time talking with some of our local legislators over the summer about this specific issue, knowing that it is going to become something that will be discussed at the legislative team meeting at Erie County Association of School Boards. And one of the legislators said that really what this is about isn't so much that kids have cell phones in their hands, but that they have social media in their hands. And I think that's what they're really trying to address. I think this is a workaround to try to get social media out of the kids' hands during the school day. That is going to extend beyond the school day. As soon as they leave campus with their phones in their hands, you still have all the same issues and problems. So if they think that this is going to solve our social media issues, and they talked a lot about the science of, behind kids' student mental health, and social media, the connections to social media, and how they think that this is going to help. I think they've missed the mark. And it's just one more battle for our teachers to have to fight. Some teachers actually use their students' phones in class for good reasons. They have them put in due dates in the calendar. They have them look something up. There are practical applications for using a cell phone in class, and I don't think that we should ban them and take that away. That being said, the current bill that's being debated the language in it is a little funny. Typical legislation where it does give some of the responsibility back to the school, but I'm not really sure where the lines are. And for that reason, I wouldn't want to support it just because it's not very clear. It's another one of those ambiguous, do what you want, but if anybody says anything, we have a rule in New York State. I hate that. I'd like to see them give us a little bit more clear cut, this is what we want to see, so we can really debate what the real issue is.
So I kind of have a direct question to Doug. Is there a cell phone issue within this district? I mean, meaning is it greater or less than what's out there generally in our area when you're looking at kids and cell phones and so forth? I mean, cell phones in school, I think, to Jane's point, are really positive. They can also be really negative. Just trying to get a sense of two things. Is administration equipped to manage and handle that? And how well are we doing that, trying to encourage, to Jim's point, the best use of cell phones so they can be prepared as they grow up?
I think it's very important to listen to what Jane said there. There's two aspects, in-school and out-of-school aspect. The out-of-school aspect on social media with cell phones is taxing the administrators. But that's not what the bill is addressing. So when I just come to the part that's addressing in-school, yes, we do every once in a while have problems in school with cell phones. We had a student that walked around for a while taping, and we had to address that, and it was recording things that were not inappropriate, but he shouldn't have been using it. It was in the middle school. There's a rule in the middle school. Your phone is not supposed to be out. It should be in the lockers. Teacher took care of it. We addressed it. The kid had consequences for it. Is there a huge issue with it? No, but there are issues. High school, they're allowed to use it for exactly what Jane was saying. It's I'll say a green, yellow, red light system where if it's a red area, you can't have it out, you can't be using it. Testing situation in this classroom. The other classroom, they might have it out where they can look up resources during a test. I have not heard of where there's an abundance of problems with that happening. I haven't seen, any really big social media storm happening during school. There might be a text here or there throughout the year or something. But our biggest problems are outside of the school day. Our students tend to be very respectful with it during the day for what the teachers want. Again, I think it comes down to classroom management with the teachers. The better the classroom management, the better respect in the classroom. I don't see how this would help Iroquois. How it could help other districts, I think that gets back to where it being a local decision. I know there are schools around. I know there are schools that are investigating it, having committees and parents come in to see what the lay of the land is. And I don't think it's a lay of the land. If it's impacting instruction, you shouldn't be having it. If it's assisting instruction or helping them for the future, you should have it. And you should have it in a controlled fashion like anything else you have. You have art class, but your kid can't go down the hall painting the wall, but yet senior prank, we've had people come in here and paint the wall. We're not going to ban paint. I think also it gets into the cost because they talk about how are you going to prevent cell phones. So you're going to have a cost for monitoring, cost if you put them in these little packets and unloading the packets, and that's going to impact instructional time. And when do they do it? Where do you store it? What happens if one gets lost? There was just a survey with a lot of superintendents on it. A lot of districts are where we are with it. They're saying we are not having problems that need to be addressed at this time. Again, could change,
Sure.
But right now I don't see problems at Iroquois with it.
Okay.
I shouldn't say I don't see problems. I see few problems, but not enough that are impacting instruction.
And I was going to say, at the very least, I think we should see what New York's final bill is and if they do anything with it. Because, trying to guess what they're going to do or it doesn't seem to be responsible.
My concern for this bill specifically is there's not a lot of traction in terms of legislators signing on and getting movement on it. However, the governor herself is going around and campaigning on it, which tells me that if it doesn't go through in this current legislative session, when the new session starts in January, I think we're going to see this bill come back, and there's going to be a lot more conversation. So I don't think this is the last time we'll be talking about it.
Are there any other thoughts on cell phones? For the next one, the proposed mixed competition, I'm just going to ask Doug to explain exactly what that is, because there's a whole bunch of different theories and a whole bunch of what it is and what it isn't. So I think, Doug?
Yeah. So mixed competition, this has nothing to do with sexual identity, transgender, anything like that. It has to do with an individual who was born a sex, identifying with that same sex. So we'll say a male student, born as a male, identifies with a male, and wants to play field hockey. Yes, they can go do it because it's not offered. Interesting case, because we do have females that are born female, identify with female, might be on the wrestling team, and we don't have a girls' wrestling team. Fine, I've seen that for years. I wrestled, those are just things that happened. Where it gets interesting is if you have a female swimming team and a male who identifies as a male who's a swimmer, the female season is in the fall, the male is in the winter. Well, there's no sport in the fall for me that I want to do. I want to swim, so they could go be on the female swimming team. Then they go and be on the male swimming team. Now, an interesting aspect that I'm thinking about, it would be actually when they would do it, because you're allowed to participate in 4 seasons, so they could time out with seasons. It's something I think I sent out to the board recently about a soccer case. But that is where the rub comes, and I did send out to the board a stance of the Erie, concerns of the Erie County superintendents. Because of that, you are having someone who identifies explicitly on a different sport that's been traditionally of the opposite sex. And it's the equity of it. Are we taking, would that person be taking slots away unfairly from someone else?
And the other change, and I could be wrong, is that in the past, when this topic came up, the administration or the athletic director could weigh different situations, whether it be safety, that in this case, that with this law, that is removed, right? It's basically a done deal.
It would be a done deal, and they can be on it. We have no discretion whatsoever.
So that's a new aspect that I didn't recognize in it. I did not realize, I thought that if your school had, for example, using your example, if we have a male swim team, then that student has to wait until it's their season. You're saying, no, they could actually do both seasons, male and female seasons, with this, if this law.
I'm saying that's the way it
pass?
was explained to me at a meeting. Was that person right? I would hope so, because they
Okay.
were from a section, and it was a state meeting of talking about these different ones coming down. Now, will they change that or tweak it or have guidance and FAQs that change that? Very possible.
The way it was explained to me was that, let's say Iroquois had a male lacrosse team, but not a female lacrosse team, but a female wanted to play lacrosse, then she could join the lacrosse team that we have, because there isn't a female offered lacrosse team
Yeah.
here. That's how it was explained to me. Like, if there is one, you have to wait your turn for your
Well,
season.
And that's how I thought it was. Like, I had the same question. Doesn't mean the individual informed me was right, because I'm like, I don't understand why we need this, because we've always had that. We did have a female on the wrestling team. We did have a female on the football team. So we've always allowed that. This allows things to go the other way. So you have your hockey players that don't have hockey all going on the girls' field hockey team. Is that equitable? Because for Title IX, how you balanced out sports was to make sure, 5 boy sports, 5 girl sports. So there was the balance with Title IX, and this could shift that tremendously. So that impact is that concern, then that's one of the things we state in the letter, that how will this impact Title IX if you have all these individuals going out for these sports?
Right. Did the superintendents receive a response to your letter?
Not that I know of.
Good to know.
And I think this really comes down to kind of an equity. All this was put in place to allow individuals opportunities, and now this kind of can really change that.
Any more questions or comments on this topic?
No, the only thing I would say is I understood it the way Jane had mentioned, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's how I read it, that's how I understood it, regardless if they didn't have an opportunity to play and it was only one gender, that they can then play that. So I think there's a lot to unpack here, regardless of where we get all the information. We just really need to be certain, because it will create a ripple effect and some disruption within the athletics for sure. So it's important, and clarity is going to be really important on this one.
I know that this is another issue that will be discussed at the legislative team, so hopefully Jim will be able to participate at that meeting and bring back some other information. I know that there's a neighboring school district that has a vested interest in this because of the lacrosse aspect, and so one of their board members has been talking with legislators. He's been informing me, about his conversations, so I think we'll hear some more about this too.
So
And I think it's that unpacking is important, because let's just take hockey. is ice hockey the same as field hockey? So we do have an ice hockey team, of boys and a girls. So would they consider that boys who play ice hockey cannot play field hockey? We do have a girls' ice hockey team, and right now they don't consider field hockey and ice hockey is the same because you're able to play 4 seasons for each because they're in different times of the year.
So is
It will be interesting in the details.
So is it fair to say that, the superintendent will search for these answers for us?
I'm looking for the answers all the
Okay.
time on this.
Because,
one.
that's
just don't see
basically
them
where
out
we
there.
are right now.
Yeah.
Okay, then we will move on to the superintendent report.
Oh, wait,
Sorry.
I have a couple of things.
Oh.
For news worth sharing, ECASB had their law conference at the beginning of August, and I was able to attend that and hear several speakers on various different issues. This year, we learned that Jay Rona, who is the general counsel for NYSBA, is retiring. So that is something to note. I attended the back-to-school dinner with Jim, and we learned about the Science of Reading program at Akron. It was a really nice follow-up to the information that we learned here at our own board meeting last spring. If anybody is interested in the information, I do have some. It was actually emailed out to us all, but I do have some information that I can share with you.
Can you just pass that along to Mary Jo, because we always look for partners in this
And-
too?
Sure, yeah.
Jane, they were there because they had won an award for their reading program, right?
Yes, yeah, they have. The delegate assembly meeting is on September 12th from 7 to 8:30, and right before that, from 6 to 7, is the budget and finance meeting. So those of you who are on those committees, be aware, September 12th, here we go. And then September 19th is the legislative meeting. And then September 26th, there's a new event that ECASB is putting on. It's called Now That I'm on the Board, and that is for our newer members to attend with our board president, vice president, and superintendent. So if you're able to go to that on the 26th, I believe the registration deadline is the 13th. You have to let Nora know so she can respond to ECASB by the 13th. So let her know. And then in the distant future, October 17th, we're talking about fiscal oversight and responsibility. That's Rick Timms comes in and does his talk about the state of New York State finances. It's always a really eye-opening meeting, especially for our newest member. That's a good one to attend because you learn really quickly about how foundation aid impacts our school budget. So October 17th is another really, put that on your calendar, hold that, and come attend Rick Timms. And then, obviously, NYSBA has the business meeting. It's virtual on October 10th, and then the convention on the 27th through the 29th. So.
And the only thing I just want to add real quick, as Jane reminded me, what Akron put on was really impressive. And the two best things that I can say is how excited the teachers were, and they were excited because they're basically saying, this works. Students that we were never able to reach before, this is reaching, and they're learning how to read. The one teacher said that it starts off that all students can learn to read, and she wasn't sure if she necessarily believed that, but now she does, because this program is very effective.
The other thing to stress is that they did talk about how it's not a set program that you go out and buy and just do. It is a science that they are studying, and that what they're doing is changing some of how they bring information to kids, but they're using the programs that they already have in their district, so it's not something that's going to cost a whole lot of money. You're not completely changing your reading program, and their excitement was just
You could feel how excited they were.
it was catchy.
They went from very
contagious.
very happy to like tears of happiness.
Yeah.
Because of how the effects it had on students.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really a positive program. So.
Now you're up, Doug.
All right. Opening of school. Talked about this for years. I love the opening of school. I think it's a day I always look forward to. For one thing, maintenance and cleaning crews and everyone have done such a great job preparing the buildings again and bringing them back to shine, but having the kids come in is so exciting. Today, the II students were bringing in, dropping off bags, so I got to say hi to students and people down there. That was great. Middle school was having supply drop-off. High school is having freshman orientation tonight. And they also did a new program tonight, and I know one thing the board talks about is the CTE programs. And from what I heard while I was in there, and what kind of I expected is we have one of the largest groups ever going to the CTE classes at Ormsby, and they all came in. It's the first time we tried it as a norming just for them of what to expect, what to do. We had the principal from Ormsby come in, talk to them and all the partnerships in between and what's expected of them. And it was the seniors and the juniors, and they talked about how as you get to a senior with the internships. So I had my calendar up here, that's why I was on my phone, even though Governor doesn't like it. Make sure I have the right dates. The teachers will be coming back on the 3rd for opening day. I believe Keith is going to be speaking on that. And the next Wednesday, the 4th, they're going to be coming in, and I believe also Channel 7 contacted me today. We're trying to set up where they can come in and just do a little thing on opening day here at Iroquois. I did it once years ago, and I think they kind of rotate through the schools. So we're trying to get something with transportation. They don't know it yet, so I hope they're not listening at 5 o'clock in the morning because they start earliest for their first soundbite, then a second one around 6 something, and then a third one around 6:45. And I kind of giggled. I'm like, you do know we don't start till 7:30. So we'll see if we can get people in for all that. I'm sure there'll be some teachers coming in early and trying to get ready that will speak. So that's opening day. Intermediate school opening update. I already talked about the kids coming in for that. I think in a Friday memo, I said last thing we're waiting for whiteboards. They're back in, they're up. And so all the teachers have everything that was planned has been put in place. And I think Ryan's doing a great job. I've gone to different meetings that he's been at. The last one I was at was foundations, and there was 4th and 5th grade teachers, and there was foundations as a base to help build the culture and social emotional aspect of students. And they were really collaborative and having a great time of building. They were showing me their items, their artifacts that were coming out of there, and so that was great. I know that they're looking at their sequence. You talked about reading. I know they're looking, is it sequence? No, that's not the right word. The timing of how they're teaching. Pacing, thank you. The pacing of what they're teaching, so I know that's been going on with the leading of that. Ryan's heavily involved, and the teachers seem generally excited to have this. And so you go down the room, if you went tonight, you'd see how the rooms are all set up already. So that's great to see. Unless there's any questions on that, I know that was one big thing, and now we're done with getting to that aspect. Now it'll be monitoring how it progresses throughout the year.
So just a simple question. So basically, the II is ready to open, and we're there.
We could open it, if the teachers and kids showed up tomorrow, we could open it tomorrow. I think if you look out the window, there's a Gaga pit sitting right there. Only concern I have that the stakes seem a little high. I think they need to be pounded down a little lower. But, even that's in, so that's impressive. Response to last month's public comments. It actually wasn't last month, but the board received an email a while ago about requests for discussion on pre-K transportation. And what they were looking for, the individuals were looking for is, can we transport pre-K students? Some other districts do it. Can we do that too? Some other school districts that do it do have outside transportation, and they said it just would get more students the opportunity with parents working. They wouldn't have to drop them off or pick them up. The buses could do that. And I don't disagree with that. Here's where we run into trouble at Iroquois. Number one, it's not just riding the buses that go to Alma, Marilla, and Wales, because we have students in the Alma Elementary District that go to Wales and Marilla for UPK. So we'd have to run special buses and special ones, so we'd have to add runs on there. Any child under the age of 4 is required by law a seat with a 5-point harness. That's the way it is. So we do have students that are under the age of 4 that are coming in because of where their birthday is. New York State says you cannot discriminate based on age and only transport some children. So therefore, we would have to do the 3 and the 4. Because you're required to transport the 3-year-olds, you would need to equip most, if not all, in-district buses with these integrated seats. Because over the years, you buy a bus, you have to have the seats on it because the bus could be on multiple runs, or you might need more here. So that's why you said most, but not all, some maybe all, but most of them, because of just how the runs are distributed out and where are the 3-year-olds? What buses are there going there? And there could be 1 on each bus. Or some years there could be 4 on a bus, none on another bus. If federally approved child seats were to be purchased, it would be a recurring expense to replace seats roughly every 5 years. These type of seats also permanently reduce the seating capacity of buses on all runs. Because now you have for the elementary, you couldn't put as many high school or 4th through 12th graders on a main campus run, so we'd have to have purchase more buses and then have more bus drivers. Seats would require a driver to safely secure the vehicle in the middle of an active roadway and leave the driver's seat. So when the child goes to get in the seat, like you would do with a young child at home, the driver would have to go back and make sure all the straps are into the right tightness for the child. So they're leaving the driver's seat while you're in the road in front of a house, I would assume with the red lights on, so now the buses are all packing on, and we do have trouble with people driving around buses with red lights on. Additionally, time added for each child requiring a seat. So that would just change how long our routes are. We try to stay under an hour, so again, we might get into the position where we have to add a run or shift something. And also it would impact the outside traffic of people getting places. Eric, this is from the transportation director. In his professional opinion, I don't believe Iroquois is set up to implement a successful pre-K transportation at this time. I believe that this would require planning and time to implement the pieces to make this successful and safe. Pieces like retrofitting, purchasing specialized integrated seating, bus rerouting, driver training, staff certifications would all be included. So again, it comes down to an efficiency and cost, and then how would we take care of students that are going to Marilla or Wales that don't live in the district that's there. And when I say those two, because all the students currently at Alma are attending the Alma School District, for UPK. So that, and I will get back to the individual who sent this email to us, but I've gotten all that information for the board if you have any questions. And that's it for my report.
Any questions for the superintendent report? Okay, we're going to move on to number 6, recognition of guests for agenda items. Do we have any guests? We do have one. And originally, he filled out Mr. Speck filled out the one for the not on the agenda, but he wants to speak about the August 12th meeting, and it is on the agenda under 10.01 when we approve the minutes. So it would now be time for that. Get my little time clock on here. And Mr. Speck, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I didn't think I'd be back here this soon, but I watched that August 12th meeting, and what I saw was disturbing enough for me that I felt I needed to come here and talk to you directly. I put a letter in the paper. I think you all saw that pretty much laid it out. You don't have to do it now, and I really don't expect any responses, but if anybody could give me some rationale on why you would think a code of conduct officer would meet the social emotional needs of our kids, especially after the data that we saw. If anything, you'd be adding either another counselor, social worker, and actually it was the psychologist. Our percentages are going to be so much better next year. 25% of the middle school is moving to the II. We're adding another counselor there. It's disturbing in so many ways because what I was hearing out in the community, that an individual was being forced out. Those who have been on the board for more than a year No, that couldn't be further from the truth. And to have that continue on is so disturbing. If you want to tear down the support in the community, continue those kinds of actions. Because what that shows is that you were not advocating for our children. You were advocating for one individual. And if you truly want to do what's best for our kids, take a step back and look at that. How is a code enforcement officer going to take the place of a counselor or a social worker as far as our emotional social needs? You know, if we lived in a community where we saw crime rising, would we clamor to have another police chief hired or another officer on the street? And that's what you're facing.
30 seconds.
You know, we've been hearing so much about the social emotional for so long, and then to put that forward is such a disservice. Please do the right thing for the right reasons for all of our children. And if you need to recuse yourself from a situation, please do, because you're not doing any of your board members any favors.
5 seconds.
You're putting it in a very awkward position. So thank you for your
3
time.
minutes. Thank you, Mr. Spuck. Any discussion on the agenda items 9.01 to 21.13?
I just want to welcome some folks to Iroquois. Carly Sonrecker is going to be joining us over at Marilla as an elementary teacher. Brooke Ridgway will also be at Marilla as an art teacher. Michael Rader will be a maintenance mechanic helper. Christopher Sakato will be a laborer. And Jessica Ostrowski is joining us as a nurse. But I also want to say congratulations because we got some folks that have been here for a little while and their roles are changing just a little bit. Linda Boyd Gamble is going from provisional to permanent in the business office, as well as Sue Coulter. Jenna Sullivan she was a part-time aide over at Wales and will be going full-time there. And Alyssa Osinski, who was at Wales part-time as a teacher aide, will be now up at the high school as their part-time bookstore clerk. So congratulations on those joining us and those folks whose roles are changing a little bit.
Okay, we will move on. Any other discussion on the agenda? Okay, we'll move on to the,
I'd just like to thank John. He was able to secure Vista. That's a contract we use for the school resource officers at the same rate as previous years. There's no change in that. And just point out that the capital outlay project, the seeker on that is just a requirement for doing the $100,000 work that was approved in the school budget in that aspect, and it's because there's no impact to the historical or any significance to the environment for that project.
okay, we'll move on to the consensus agenda. The basic purpose of the consensus agenda is to act upon routine matters in an expedited manner. Items placed on the consent agenda are determined by the board president and vice president in cooperation with the superintendent, and are those which are considered common to the operation of the district and normally require no special discussion or debate. Board members have the ability and the responsibility of reviewing the consent agenda ahead of time. A board member may request that any item on the consent agenda be removed and inserted at an appropriate place on the regular agenda. Okay, are there any requests to withdraw any items from the consent agenda? Are there any requests to add any items to the consent agenda? Okay, I would like motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Need a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Jane, second by Keith. We'd like to vote. All in favor, please raise your hands. All opposed? So we have 5 board members voting in favor and none opposed. Okay, now we move on to recognition of guests on any other topic. Do we have any?
Can I just point out that we do have the executive director of ECASB is here, David Lowry. Thank you for coming to our meeting today.
Thank you, Dave. Now we'd like to move into an executive session. After the executive session, we will only come back to adjourn. This is to discuss the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. Can I have a motion for the executive session?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please raise their hand. All opposed? Okay, we have 5 board members in favor and none opposed, so we will move into executive session and then come back solely to adjourn the meeting. We have returned from executive session. It is time to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded? It was first by Jane, seconded by Keith. All in favor? Okay, all opposed? Okay, it is 4 in favor, none opposed. We are adjourned.